Hello, everyone. Welcome to the mini lecture on down and dirty versus the scientific-based research. As we do with all of these, just sort of a level setting on what this certificate is all about. And again, it's following the advertising journey from putting the consumer at the center, identifying goals and objectives, assessing the requirements for an effective marketing campaign to meet those goals, developing actionable insights that you can take through creative, understanding your media choices and how to build the optimal media plan, measuring the effectiveness and efficiency of that campaign, and hopefully meeting some industry leaders along the way. This course, the Foundations course, you walk away with the ability to evaluate the range of methodologies for this process, an understanding of the qualitative and quantitative methods, differentiating between the different types of behavioral data, designing appropriate success metrics, and developing a high-level research plan to address those needs. So in this section, these are the 4 mini lectures. So this is the first one, down and dirty versus scientific-based research. Now, why is this an issue? This has been a trend that's been going on probably the last 10 to 15 years, where there's 2 camps. There's one camp that says we have to do this the scientific way because we are about the scientific approach, and our industry is about robustness and rigor. But there has been this movement towards down and dirty research, and often that's driven by, as you might expect, budgets and timelines. So let's just talk about this a little bit. When anyone's designing a research approach for a specific business problem, there are a few practical considerations, right? Obviously, the 2 I just mentioned, what's your budget and what's your timeline? But also, do you have the research expertise to pull off this kind of project that you need? What are your requirements for precision? And I know that sounds strange because a lot of us, I think, have been schooled in it's all about precision, but there are degrees of that. What actions are going to be taken on this learning? And then, an obvious question that I don't think we always ask is the opportunity that we're doing for which this research will answer some questions. Is it worth the investment, depending on what the budget and the timeline actually is? And these are all valid questions to ask when you start any type of data, insight, or research project. Now, I think most researchers and data people will tell you that when designing an approach, there is generally an accepted right way to design it. And then there's what the budget and the timeline will allow, right? And to meet those constraints, I mean, this happens to me in the office all the time. People will approach me or email me or call me or do a video chat and say, hey, listen, this is what we need. And I'll design it the right way. And then I'll hear, oh, we don't have that kind of budget. We don't have those kind of timelines. So then the question becomes, are there shortcuts that you could take, right? And if so, which ones will ease the constraints of budget and timeline? But then also, at what point do you take so much rigor out of the process that the research or the data is no longer valid, right? The output doesn't really answer the question in a way that provides enough rigor behind it that you have confidence in those responses. So the question becomes, is down and dirty good enough? And where is good enough? And do you feel, as the provider, good enough about those answers? I mean, there's been a few industry trends, macro trends. There's been a proliferation of DIY, do-it-yourself market research tools, where pretty much anyone can get an account with an online survey platform, write their questions, get themselves a sample, do some research, and get some answers. And there's also at the same time been a shift away from internal market research training initiatives. And this is true both on the vendor side, the supplier side, as well as the client side. And we've also seen in the industry concerns about declining consumer participation in research and also fraudulent participation in research, right? And these three things are exacerbating the sensibility of down and dirty research. Now, do it yourself research is perfectly fine, but just like anything else, like driving a car, there is a minimum level of skill and understanding that's required. So down and dirty can be perfectly fine as long as the researcher fully understands the trade-offs they're making, feels comfortable that the research will achieve a minimum level of credible results, and caveats those trade-offs when sharing the results of that research. Now, I just want to be clear, right? Because sometimes people get confused, I think, between DIY, do it yourself, and down and dirty. And people sometimes conflate those to mean the same thing, and they are not the same thing. DIY, as the name says, is doing it yourself without hiring a research agency. So if a client has a research department, and I know of many that do this, the researchers don't hire research agencies. The researcher at the client does not hire a research agency, they do it themselves. But they are very accomplished researchers, and they know the fundamentals of good research, good sampling, good survey design, good analysis. They're just doing it themselves as opposed to subcontracting it. Whereas down and dirty is a little different. But usually on the client side, you're not going to see a lot of down and dirty research. There'll be some. At a vendor, you're not going to see a lot of it. But down and dirty, the dictionary defines it as made or done hastily, unpolished, relating to or involved with what is crudely basic and practical. So those are two very different things. One is a measure of rigor, robustness, and quality, down and dirty. And DIY is a measure of just who's doing it. Am I subcontracting it or am I doing it themselves? And so they are two very different things. Now, when I hear down and dirty, my thoughts jump to, okay, where can we cut corners yet still maintain a high level of rigor, replicability, which is a measure of quality, right? I can repeat it and get the same results time after time. And I have confidence that the results I'm sharing with whoever's requesting it are valid, and we can rely on them to make business decisions, right? So there are some corners you can consider cutting, and there are others you probably shouldn't. So corners you can consider cutting: the scope of the research objectives, right? Sometimes what's driving cost and timeline is that the research objectives are many. They require different approaches to be done, separate projects almost. The breadth of research inquiries. So even within one narrow objective, there's 50 things that need to be understood. If you're producing data, how detailed should that data be? And then you could also think about sample size within reason, right? Because there become caveats. Once your samples get too small, validity becomes an issue, a significant issue. Now, there are some corners you can't consider cutting. And let's start with sample, right? A representative, high quality sample with known respondents or participants and where they come from, their provenance. is very important. And it's something I would think twice before thinking about cutting there. And similarly, a well thought through and well worded questionnaire or discussion guide. Sometimes with Down and Dirty, what people are thinking is, oh, we've only got 2 weeks to do this, so this questionnaire is good enough. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Right? And if you ask the wrong questions in your survey or discussion guide or IDI or even in a social listening, what you get out of it isn't all that helpful to anybody, right? So just some thoughts on where is it appropriate to think about cutting and where is it not? And we should probably not think about the scientific method and Down and Dirty as a binary decision. It's a spectrum. And as researchers and data people who know what is quality, what quality looks like, what rigor looks like, and what reliable results look like, it's kind of up to us to help and consult with those who are asking these questions on where's the appropriate place to draw that line, and where do you go too far that you start to lose that validity. Okay, if you have any questions, put them on the course site, or we can chat about it at one of the synchronous sessions. Otherwise, be well, everybody. Bye-bye.